you ever watched a kid get kicked off a plane? For sitting in the seat she paid for? Amira Lewis did everything right. She checked her seat number 3 times, sat exactly where her boarding pass said, 8C, premium class. She didn't cause trouble, didn't raise her voice, and still, she was ordered off that plane like a criminal. The flight attendant didn't lower her voice. "This isn't for TikTok stunts. You need to deplane immediately." Her name tag read Karen Schultz, and yes, she lived up to it. Passengers turned. Some pulled out phones. A man in 5A started recording, whispering, "She's just a kid." But the damage was done. Amira stood frozen, her little red suitcase at her feet, her face burning. She tried again, softly, politely. "This is my seat. My grandma booked it. I have the pass right here." Karen crossed her arms. "Security is on its way." A woman in a white blazer scoffed loud enough for others to hear. "She doesn't look like she belongs up here anyway." Amira blinked, hard. She didn't cry. She wouldn't give them that. The 2 security officers arrived in under a minute. They didn't ask questions. They didn't check her documents. One just said, "Let's go, miss." And that was it. Her sneakers squeaked as she walked the aisle. The walk of shame before takeoff. A few people averted their eyes. Most didn't. Not a single soul stood up for her. At the gate, under the cold glare of fluorescent lights, Amira's phone buzzed. One missed call. "Grandma." She called back with trembling fingers. Her voice cracked. "Grandma, they said I didn't belong. They took me off." There was a pause on the other end. A long one. Then came her grandmother's calm voice. "Stay right where you are, baby." That was all she said. What Amira didn't know, what the airline certainly didn't know, was that her grandmother wasn't just another concerned guardian. She was the one person in the entire ESG system you don't want to piss off. And in exactly 7 minutes, they'd find out why. Most kids Amira's age hated silence. She loved it. It made room for listening, and Amira had learned early that listening could save you a whole lot of trouble. She lived with her grandmother, Henrietta DuPont, in a quiet apartment off University Avenue in Newark. Just the 2 of them, since her father, Captain Elijah Lewis, died 3 years ago in a plane crash that was quietly ruled mechanical failure. But Amira knew better. So did her grandma. They just didn't talk about it. Her father used to tell her, in the air, everything matters. One screw out of place, one bad decision, and that's it. He flew until the day the system failed him. And today, his daughter was on her way to honor him, or at least she was supposed to be. Amira had planned for this trip like it was a science fair project. She triple-checked her boarding pass, packed her dress in a special garment bag, printed out her grandma's notarized travel consent form, and memorized her gate number. She even wrote out what to say if someone questioned her. "Yes, I'm traveling alone. No, I don't need assistance. My grandmother arranged everything." The memorial in New Orleans wasn't just for closure, it was sacred. Her father's old squadron, friends from the Airmen's Guild, even a few aviation regulators were flying in. She wanted to show them she remembered him, that she carried him, even if she was only 12. That morning before she left, her grandma had kissed her forehead and said, "You walk tall, baby. Doesn't matter if they don't see it. You know who you are." Now, standing alone at gate 17, shaken and confused, Amira tried to hold on to those words. She stared at the digital screen above the gate. Her flight was still boarding, the same flight she was no longer welcome on. She had done everything right, everything, and still, they looked at her and decided she doesn't belong here. What Amira didn't know was that someone in that airport, someone watching from far away, was about to make the system remember exactly who she was. 15 minutes earlier, Amira had been in her seat, quiet, focused, doing exactly what her grandma taught her. Stay calm, sit tall, don't let them shake you. She'd been reading over the memorial program on her phone when a shadow hovered above her. "Excuse me," the flight attendant said, all sweet sugar coating on top. "Can I see your boarding pass again?" Amira blinked. I already showed it at the gate. Karen Schultz didn't move. I just need to double-check your assignment. Other passengers, mostly older white folks, sat untouched, reading newspapers, sipping ginger ale. Amira handed over her phone again, screen glowing with Seat 8C, premium class. She even showed the timestamp. Karen barely glanced. Do you have ID? That made Amira pause. I'm 12. Karen tilted her head, smiling with teeth. Do you have any documentation showing you're authorized to travel alone? I have my grandma's consent letter, Amira offered, reaching into her bag. Karen cut her off with a wave. Just stay here. I'll be back. The words hit like ice. Stay here? Passengers were starting to notice now. A man across the aisle frowned. A woman leaned in to whisper to her husband. Amira stayed still, trying to slow her breathing. When Karen returned, it wasn't alone. 2 more crew members trailed her, including a tall man with a clipboard and a tight jaw. We're still not able to verify your seat status, Karen announced loud enough for row 9 to hear. You'll need to step off until this is resolved. I've already checked in, Amira said, voice thin but steady. I have everything, the receipt, the email. My grandmother booked this for me weeks ago. Karen's smile hardened. The formatting of your ticket looks off. It's not our usual digital layout. It's the one from your website, Amira whispered. I need to ask you to deplane, Karen repeated, motioning toward the front. This time, all eyes were on her. She hadn't cried yet, but her voice trembled as she stood. I didn't do anything wrong. When the security officers returned, they didn't look angry. They didn't even look curious. Just blank. Like this was routine. Miss, you'll need to step off the aircraft, one of them said. Amira was still sitting in her seat, hands folded tightly in her lap, backpack under her feet, suitcase overhead. Her voice barely came out. Why? Karen Schultz was standing just behind them, arms crossed like she'd already won something. There's a discrepancy with your documentation, she said flatly. We don't have time to resolve it now. You'll need to deplane and speak with the gate manager. But I didn't do anything wrong, Amira whispered. Karen didn't respond. Neither did the officers. Then someone said it, soft but loud enough to carry. She probably snuck into this section anyway. Amira's throat closed. The man in 8B who'd smiled politely earlier now turned away, suddenly busy with his phone. No one else looked at her. No one stood up. Amira rose slowly, her limbs stiff. She reached overhead to grab her suitcase, but it was just out of reach. Karen didn't move. A flight attendant from the back finally stepped forward and pulled it down, gently. She didn't say a word, but her eyes softened just a little. Amira nodded in thanks. Her voice wouldn't work anymore. As she walked the narrow aisle, the silence pressed in like a blanket made of shame. A few passengers whispered, a few filmed. One woman murmured, "This is awful," but no one stopped it. She stepped through the jetway, back into the sterile light of the gate. The door shut behind her with a mechanical hiss. Final, like a sentence passed. At the desk, the gate agent barely glanced up. If you've been removed, you'll have to wait for customer service. When? Amira asked, voice hoarse. He shrugged. 40 minutes, maybe more. She nodded slowly, moved to the plastic chairs against the wall, and sat down. She didn't cry. She just stared straight ahead, legs swinging above the floor, suitcase at her side. And in that moment, surrounded by strangers who refused to see her, Amira had never felt smaller. Amira sat at gate 17 like she wasn't real, feet barely touching the floor, eyes glazed over, breathing tight. She didn't know what to do, who to call, what to say. Her grandma hadn't answered her last text, and the gate agent hadn't looked at her once. Finally, after what felt like an hour, but was maybe 7 minutes, Amira gathered herself and stood. She walked up to the counter quietly. "Excuse me." The man behind it, mid-40s, gold cross badge on his chest, barely glanced up. You've already been told to wait for customer service? I just wanted to understand why I was removed. I had a paid ticket. I checked in. I followed every rule. He sighed, finally giving her a full look. Miss, flight crews have full discretion during boarding. If they felt uncomfortable or that protocol wasn't met, they have the right to request removal. It's in our terms. But I had everything, she said, voice shaking now. My documents, the seat number. I was respectful. He blinked slowly. Look, I'm sure it's a misunderstanding, but policy is policy. Security was involved, so now it's out of my hands. Amira stared at him, heart thudding. Another woman in uniform walked by and gave her a long look, whispered something to the agent. He turned to her. You're not authorized to be in this zone anymore. Once a passenger is removed, they must return to the public terminal. You're saying I can't even sit here? Correct. The words landed harder than she expected. Like being erased, not just removed. She picked up her little red suitcase. Her hands were trembling again. As she started walking toward the terminal exit, someone nearby said softly, "Poor thing." But no one followed. No one stopped her. Her steps echoed against the polished floor, each one heavier than the last. And that's when her phone buzzed. A name flashed on the screen. Grandma. Amira answered in a whisper. They said it's policy. They said I can't stay. On the other end, Henrietta DuPont's voice was steady as stone. Baby, tell me the name of the airline. Amira sat near a vending machine, tucked into a corner of the terminal like forgotten luggage. The hum of the airport was all around her. Announcements, footsteps, laughter from some nearby gate. But in her world, everything was silent. She hadn't spoken since the call. She hadn't cried either. Not yet. The little red suitcase stood upright beside her, like it still believed they were going somewhere. She pulled her hoodie over her head and leaned forward, elbows on her knees, fingers gripping each other tight. Her palms were sweaty. Her grandmother always said, "You don't cry while they're watching. You cry when you're safe." But when was that? Her seat was gone. Her voice was dismissed. Her presence erased. She checked her phone. 1 bar. No new messages. Then, quietly, it rang again. Grandma. Amira picked up immediately. Grandma, you okay? The voice on the line was low and calm, but there was a sharpness behind it. I don't know, Amira whispered. They said I didn't belong. They didn't even check my name. They made me leave. There was a pause, not a hesitant one, just measured. Did anyone touch you? No, Amira said quickly. They didn't have to. Silence stretched between them. Then came the voice she'd known her whole life. Firm, precise, no wasted words. Tell me the name of the airline. Amira wiped her face with her sleeve. Gold Cross. Another pause. Okay, Grandma said. Stay where you are. Do not move from that spot. I'm going to handle it. Grandma. But she'd already hung up. Amira stared at the phone in her hand, unsure what had just happened. She didn't know her grandmother had stood in a boardroom that same morning with 3 European ESG executives. Didn't know her name was listed on a sealed federal compliance protocol tied to over $1 billion in transportation funding. All she knew was that Grandma had said, I'm going to handle it. And when Grandma said that, something always moved. Henrietta DuPont didn't raise her voice. She didn't need to. Her office wasn't in some corporate tower. It was 2 floors above an old brick building in Arlington, hidden behind etched glass doors and 3 layers of security. But everyone in the airline industry knew her name. At 72, she'd served under 4 administrations, audited 7 major international carriers, and currently held final override access to the Fair Sky Ledger, a cross-border ethics credit rating platform used by 7 banks and 2 international lending consortia. So when she sat at her polished walnut desk, gold pen tapping gently against her notebook, her assistant froze mid-step. Ma'am? The assistant asked. Henrietta looked up. Call Lucienne at Geneva Bank. Flag Gold Cross. The assistant blinked. Flag them? Yes. Preliminary ethics breach. Use protocol black flag clause. Temporary freeze. Understood. She didn't ask why. No one ever did. Henrietta picked up her phone next and dialed direct. The kind of line that doesn't ring more than once. Is this Morgan at FAA Compliance? Yes, Director DuPont. I need to initiate an emergency review of Gold Cross Airlines. Passenger ethics violation. Passenger is a minor. Silence on the other end. Understood. Triggering internal assessment now. Henrietta exhaled once. Her voice dropped a note. Also, notify the ESG Alliance. Their investment fund holds $920 in Gold Cross equity. If I log the ethics downgrade in Fair Sky, it'll lock that funding. A sharp breath. I'll notify the Alliance. What's the level of infraction? Henrietta didn't pause. Level 4. Public removal of a minor passenger based on racial profiling and unsupported documentation claims. She hung up. The room fell silent again. Then she reached for the framed photo on her desk. Little Amira, at age 7, missing teeth, grinning in front of a lemonade stand. Her eyes softened, but only for a second. Henrietta DuPont wasn't just going to get an apology. She was going to rewrite the rulebook they used to humiliate her granddaughter. And within the next hour, someone's billion-dollar compliance score was about to flatline. It started quietly. At exactly 3:06 p.m. Eastern, an alert lit up across multiple compliance terminals at Geneva Bank's ESG division. The system flagged Gold Cross Airlines with a Level 4 ethics violation in the Fair Sky ledger. Within seconds, 7 affiliated institutions received automated notices. Ethics status: non-compliant trigger, minor passenger removal without verified cause. Flagged by Henrietta DuPont, Authority Tier Alpha. By 3:08 p.m., the ESG Alliance froze all $920 in active investments tied to Gold Cross. Liquidity halted. Credit lines froze. Any ongoing funding or merger talks paused indefinitely. At 3:11 p.m., Zurich Trust delisted Gold Cross from its ESG-compliant transportation portfolio. Paris Green Equity followed. Then, Tokyo Social Yield. 3 minutes later, Gold Cross stock slipped 6%. Within half an hour, 12%. The airline's CEO, Mason Clark, was mid-call when his legal director barged into the room, eyes wide. Sir, we've been flagged on the Fair Sky system. What does that even mean? It means, she said, breath shallow, no one can touch us. Not banks, not investors. We've gone radioactive. At FAA headquarters, a red-tagged file crossed the director's desk. Gold Cross is now under emergency ethics investigation. All decisions made involving minors and first-class boarding over the last 12 months would be audited. 6 airports temporarily suspended Gold Cross's VIP boarding clearance until further notice. Back at the terminal, Amira still sat quietly, headphones on, unaware of the tidal wave crashing behind the scenes. She didn't know that 7 airlines were watching closely, now rushing to update internal protocols before they too got flagged. She didn't know that Gold Cross's own PR team had just been silenced, instructed not to post, not to tweet, not to comment until the board could assess the damage. But Henrietta DuPont knew. From her quiet office in Arlington, she watched a live dashboard flicker with red warnings. She sipped her tea and said softly, maybe now they'll remember what the price of dignity is. The boardroom at Gold Cross headquarters had never felt this tense. Every screen in the room glowed red. Stock charts, press clippings, internal risk warnings. The meeting had been called in under 15 minutes, but they were already an hour too late. CEO Mason Clark slammed his hand on the table. Someone talk to me. What is this Fair Sky ledger and why the hell are we flagged? A VP from legal shifted nervously. It's an international ethics credit platform, built to track ESG violations in real time, mostly used by global lenders and compliance funds. Mason narrowed his eyes. So why are we on it? A younger analyst pulled up a screen. We were flagged for an incident involving the public removal of a minor, Amira DuPont. Silence. Someone near the back muttered, DuPont? Wait, Henrietta DuPont? The room froze. That name traveled faster than any headline. She was more than just a consultant. She built the ethics infrastructure most of them relied on. Some of their funding literally required her signature to remain compliant. Mason cursed under his breath. Tell me this is reversible. No, sir, said legal. She triggered Clause 7A black flag, which immediately halts all ESG-backed investments. That includes 900 capital. Someone from public affairs added, and, we're trending. They pulled up a feed. Thousands of tweets. The video of Amira being let off the plane had surfaced, captured by a passenger near the front. The captions were damning. 12-year-old kicked off plane for being black? Where's her seat now, Gold Cross? Flying while black, justice. For Amira had boycott Gold Cross. By the end of the hour, 5 major influencers had joined in. Then came 3 journalists. Then a civil rights attorney. Mason sank back in his chair. Someone get me Karen Schultz, he muttered, and tell her not to talk to a single soul until I say so. But it was already too late. The story wasn't just viral. It was global. Amira hadn't moved from her corner spot. She'd been there for nearly 3 hours, watching people come and go, boarding planes, hugging their families, carrying coffee cups and roller bags. She hadn't cried. Still hadn't cried. But something in her felt different now. Her phone buzzed again. A DM, then another, then dozens. She blinked. Her Instagram had exploded. Strangers tagging her, reposting her photo, hashtags flying across every post. Mira deserved better. Gold Cross exposed. Justice. For Amira. She didn't even know how they found her. But there was one video, taken from row 1, where you could see everything. Her standing with her little red suitcase, the flight attendant pointing, the disbelief on her face. Someone had added a caption. This girl was removed because of how she looks, but the airline didn't know who her grandma was. Her fingers hovered over the screen. Slowly, she clicked the comments. The way she stayed calm, though. Whoever raised her is royalty. She's stronger than me at 12. Just then, her grandmother called. Hi, baby, Henrietta said softly. You okay? Amira's voice cracked a little. Grandma, did you do something? Henrietta smiled on the other end. I just asked a few people the right questions. They're saying the airline's losing money. People are talking about me. That's because people saw what happened. And when they see injustice, they talk. Amira swallowed. I didn't mean for all this. You didn't do anything wrong, Henrietta cut in gently. But you reminded the world what wrong looks like. And that matters. Amira looked around the terminal. For the first time, she didn't feel invisible. Then, someone tapped her shoulder. A woman with a press badge. Amira Williams? From Flight 827? Amira blinked. Yes? We'd love to hear your story, if you're ready to tell it. She looked down at her little red suitcase, then back at the camera, and nodded. Henrietta stood at the window of her Arlington office as the sun sank behind the skyline. A storm was coming, not in the weather, but in the industry. Her phone rang, not her personal cell, the secure landline. Only 3 people had the number. She answered. Yes? Ms. DuPont, the voice said. This is Preston Ellis, FAA liaison. We've reviewed the Fair Sky activation. You made the ethics downgrade stick. Henrietta didn't look away from the glass. Wasn't hard. Gold Cross gave me more than enough reason. You understand this has broader implications? 2 other airlines use the same ethics rating. They're demanding reviews now. Europe's watching, so is Singapore. Good, she said calmly. Let them watch. She hung up and turned back to her desk. The Fair Sky ledger was still open on her monitor. One tab showed Gold Cross's status, non-compliant. Another showed 5 other airlines under preliminary review. A third was blinking. Request from ESG Board, protocol revision discussion, DuPont standard proposal. It was time. Henrietta clicked into a draft she'd written years ago but never submitted. The document title glowed bold across the screen. The Passenger Equity Framework, Restoring Dignity in Flight. It wasn't just a set of ethics. It was a blueprint. Mandatory anti-bias training for all cabin staff. Real-time passenger complaint logging tied to airport ethics dashboards. Automatic flagging of staff violations against minors and disabled passengers. Quarterly ethics audits linked to funding eligibility and airport clearance renewal. She hit send. Within 60 seconds, the FAA received the proposal. Within 3 hours, the ESG Alliance reviewed and fast-tracked it for voting. Within 12 hours, Gold Cross lost their eligibility for ESG-backed routes in 5 countries. But Henrietta wasn't finished. She picked up her phone one last time and called the CEO of Gold Cross directly. Mason Clark answered, frazzled. "Henrietta, listen, Mr. Clark," she cut him off. "Your airline has 48 hours to issue a public apology to my granddaughter. Not a legal statement, a human one. You will also sign the Passenger Equity Framework and implement it before the quarter ends, or your airline will be permanently marked as unfit for public compliance." He tried to speak again. This is not a negotiation," and she hung up. Later that night, a press release went viral. Gold Cross Airlines signs Passenger Equity Framework, issues formal apology to 12-year-old Amira Williams. In the photo, Amira stood beside her grandmother, who held her hand proudly. The caption read, "Sometimes the most powerful seat in first class isn't on the plane at all." 1 month later, Gate 12 at Reagan National Airport looked different. The Gold Cross logo had been replaced with a small digital banner that read, "In honor of Amira Williams, let dignity board first." Underneath, a new policy quietly took effect. All passengers under 18 traveling alone would be escorted with respect and given priority seating, not as a favor, but as protocol. Amira stood just outside the gate, wearing a red hoodie and jeans, suitcase by her side. She wasn't traveling today. She was speaking. A crowd had gathered, news cameras, school groups, even a few airline execs pretending they didn't know this was bigger than a PR stunt. Amira stepped up to the mic, heart pounding. She took a slow breath, just like her grandma taught her. "Hi, my name's Amira Williams. I'm 12. A month ago, I was kicked off a flight for no real reason. At the time, I didn't know why, but now, I do." She looked up, eyes steady. "I was quiet. I had a ticket. I followed the rules. But someone looked at me and decided I didn't belong. Not because of my seat or my clothes, but because of me." A quiet hush fell over the space. "But my grandma, Henrietta DuPont, she reminded the world that just because something is common doesn't mean it's right. And sometimes, it takes just one person saying enough to make the whole system stop and listen." She smiled faintly. "I didn't ask for this. I didn't plan to change anything. But maybe we don't have to be powerful to make a difference. Maybe we just have to stay standing, even when someone tells us to sit down." People clapped, then stood. Henrietta, off to the side, wiped her eyes. Discreetly, of course. She didn't cry in public. But this was different. By the next morning, 5 more airlines adopted the Passenger Equity Framework. Within the quarter, the FAA made parts of it mandatory for all U.S. registered airlines. Over a dozen companies reached out to Henrietta for guidance. Amira received letters from across the country, young kids, parents, teachers. And one letter stood out. "Thank you for showing my daughter that her skin is not a warning label." As the sun rose over the runway, a new plaque was installed above Gate 12, simple, brass, and quiet. It read, This gate belongs to every child who was told they don't belong. Welcome aboard. And somewhere in the distance, another little girl, maybe in a red hoodie just like Amira's, walked through an airport feeling seen. Maybe for the first time. If Amira's story moved you, don't just watch, speak up. Drop a "for Amira" in the comments if you believe every child deserves dignity, no matter where they sit. And as always, tell us where you're watching from. We see you.